Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. We're going to be talking about the Princeton project that I've started. Now, you know that what I've done is I've started rebasing models from my British Grenadier to my black powder game. And what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade my miniature collection from Freeman's Farm figures up to the Battle of Princeton figures. That should give me quite a few more models that later down the road, if I want to do other battles, I should be able to do that. Okay, so what I've done, just to get you caught up, I've done an inventory of my models. I've done a inventory of bases, terrain, everything like that. So basically I've done a complete inventory. I know how many models of what type that I already have. Okay, I already know which models were based for British Grenadier, which I'm going to have to rebase them for black powder. I figured out how many additional bases I was going to need. I also figured out like how many additional figures I was going to need. And I did an inventory also of the models that I currently own that are not painted and based so that I could use them towards the Battle of Princeton. And then the next step that I had to do was find out exactly how many miniatures I needed for the Battle of Princeton. So that's what the topic of this video is about. It's like, how many models do you actually need to play the Battle of Princeton historically, right? I made some minor concessions, very few minor concessions to make the figures fit into the unit sizes that I want. Because as an example, this is just a generic example. I have units that I want to be 16 figures. I don't want 8 figures. I don't want 12 figures. I don't want an odd number, 17 figures or whatever. I wanted 16 figures. So I'm playing the Battle of Princeton in a 10-to-1 ratio, meaning for every 10 men, there's going to be a figure on the table. But that's not exactly true, because if a unit had 170 men reported, let's say the whatever unit had 170 men present at the battle, I'm going to not give them 17 figures. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them 16 models. Perfect. If they had 150 men, I'm going to give them 16 figures. If they had 100 men, I'm not going to give them 16 figures. I'm going to combine them with another unit that might only have 80 men, let's say. And that would be 180 men. So I'll make it 16 figures. So I'm not going to have two small units out there. You know, one that's 8 models and another that's 8 models. Unless they were primarily used as skirmishers during that battle. Then what I'll do is I'll take those 80 models, 80 men, and I'll make them 8 models, which is what I'm considering a small unit. 2 bases. 2 bases of 4 is a small unit. But if this unit is a skirmisher unit, then I'm going to have 4 bases of 2 models to make them easily deployed as skirmishers. Now, I could do 8 individually based models, which I've considered doing on like 1-inch washers to make them, individually skirmish. If they're always going to have, if I wanted that unit to always be a skirmisher, but if I want them to be able to form up, I need those, same as I was doing Napoleonics with mixed units. I was giving them 20 by 40 bases and putting 2 figures on it so they could be deployed as skirmishers. So I think I'm going to do that as well with the American War of Independence. But there aren't a whole lot of units out there that are skirmishers. And with the new Black Powder 2nd edition, which I have ordered and I'm waiting for that to be, I'll probably get that in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. That's what I'm kind of guessing. That will help me understand the new rules on in Black Powder, how the skirmishers work, because the skirmishers have been kind of downgraded. My understanding is the skirmishers' capabilities have been downgraded. Plus, the American War of Independence, there really wasn't any skirmishers. the British didn't even deploy skirmishers because you didn't really need them. They stayed in units, and even the light troops were sometimes combined into a light unit, but they didn't deploy as skirmishers. They were just more accurate riflemen or musketers. The Grenadiers sometimes were formed as combined units. They didn't deploy skirmishers. From time to time they did. There were skirmishers deployed, but I like the rule from Napoleon's battles, which I played for hundreds of years. At the scale that Napoleon battles played at, you didn't need to see individual skirmishers being deployed. Even though the rules, some advanced rules and some optional rules allowed you to deploy skirmishers, it was ridiculous at an operational level to see the skirmishers on the table. At this level, you should probably see skirmishers if you deploy them because it's a 1-to-10 ratio. But I'm mainly because of basing requirements and figures and the actually way the war was fought. I think that if there were any skirmishers deployed, it could easily be not hypothetical, but understood that there are men in front of the block of miniatures that you have. So you got this block of miniatures on the table. You can just tell the players, understand that this is the main body of your unit, but there will be skirmishers deployed in front. You just don't put models out there, and you don't get any modifiers or anything like that. Just assume that they're there, because it's worked into your firing value or your defense value. It's all worked into that already in those die rolls. So you don't need to actually visualize them. Or maybe I will. I don't know. I haven't got that far yet, but I don't think I'm going to. There are a handful of units that were deployed as skirmishers. There were some rifle units that, took to the trees, and there were some British units that they actually had an order called to the trees. And what that meant was if they were fighting in the woods, they would actually break their line and they would take cover behind individual trees. To me, that's just worked into the +1 modifier for being in the woods. That doesn't mean you have to deploy any skirmishers or break the unit up in any way. So I'm just going to leave that alone. And we're going to probably not have a whole lot of skirmisher units out there, but there will be a couple. And I'm going to do them on 20 by 40 bases, mounted 2 figures per base. Okay, so we're going to do it just like I did my 95th rifles or whatever. Okay, so you know where I'm standing there. Now I'm looking through some books, and I'm not relying on one source of information to form this battle. This battle is going to be a conglomeration or a combined research effort on my part from multiple sources. Right now I'm using 5-6 different sources. I'm using the books that I've got, right? I probably have a couple more books that I should probably dig out and use, like Soldiers of the Revolutionary War. Maybe I should pull that book out. It's sitting right there. Okay. Now I'm going to have to start looking at my 7th book. But I've got some books that I'm working on. And the main one is called The American Revolution. Okay, this is The Guide to the Battles by Theodore Savas and David Dameron. Okay, now these guys have researched the different battles, who participated in the battles, how many men participated in the battles, what the battlefield looked like, pretty much all the battles of the Revolutionary War. And Tom, I appreciate you giving me this book. That's going to help out quite a bit. And then there's another one. This is the one, and this one I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from this book. It's by David Hackett Fisher. It's called Washington's Crossing. I read this book. Yeah, and it was a good read, actually. I enjoyed this book. There's a lot of books that I own that I don't read that I have for research material. Like I will say, hey, I got this book on the Battle of Pixma. Let me go check out that battle, and then I can pull the book out and I go read it or whatever. Where in this one, I actually read because it was a topic that I'm very interested in. And this one, the Washington's crossing, it shows the picture of him crossing the Delaware on top of the boat, crossing the icy waters of the Delaware. That was when he crossed the river to attack the city of Trenton, right? Well, the Trenton battle happened on Christmas or Christmas Eve or something like that of 76, where Princeton is immediately after that on the 3rd of January. And Cornwallis takes a brigade, three brigades, a whole division, to attack Trenton to get it back from Washington, when in fact he took like 2/3 of his army and outflanked the British and attacked Princeton while the British were maneuvering on Trenton. So he attacks them in the flank while they're in march column going down this main road, like brigade after brigade, and Washington attacks from the flank, basically crosses the river. I don't remember what it's called. I want to say Punktown River, but maybe it's Stony Brook. I can't remember. But he crosses that river and he attacks. And that's what I want to do. I want to have the Washington outflank with 2/3 of his army and attack the British in the flank. And the British are obviously skilled better, and they have, half the Washington's army is militia. So they're all going to get killed. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be like, ooh, this is what happened, and then I don't have to tell the players exactly, unless they're historians, which a lot of players are down when I play at these conventions. But if they're historians, they'll know what's going on. But if they're not a historian, or I could tell them I'm changing history a little bit, I'm going to make a few modifications so you don't know what's up and then not change anything, and let the dice determine what happens or something. I don't know what I'm going to do. But so I'm taking a lot of inspiration from this book. And the reason why that I take a lot of inspiration from this book is because it has multiple letters that were written by commanders to Washington, or Washington to these commanders. And the Washington requesting a number count of their men, and the status of who's sick and who's not and who's able to fight and stuff like that. And there's hundreds of those letters included in this book and referred to in this book specifically. And because the whole back half of the book is resource material. Basically, it tells me what the temperature was on what day and if it was snowing. Or they also have an appendix how many cannons per man. Do I need to know that? And then where the Hessians were, and then how high the river was. And it basically gives you every single little piece of information that you'd ever want to know about the battle. And I think that's awesome. It says one unit's got 600 guys. And so if a unit has 600 guys, I'm not going to put one unit of 16 out there. I'm going to break it up. I'm going to probably give them 3 units of 16 or something, 4 units of 16 or something, just if the 2nd and the 4th were there and they had 50 men each, I'm going to make it a combined unit of the 2nd and the 4th, something like that. And so I went through this, and I've already determined exactly how many men or how many models that I need for the battle. One reason why I even bothered with this book, is because there's also Uniforms of the American Revolution. This talks about certain battles and who participated in the battles, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of detail. But it does give enough to kind of verify some of this other information. There's 2 main books. British Grenadier, Scenario Book 3, has the Battle of Princeton in it. I used this initially along with, primarily, the Rebellion book from the same people where the rules are written. The rules is Black Powder. This came from them. This is not written by Rick Priestley, right? It's written by, who is this written by? Stephen Jones. Okay. In the book, at the beginning of the scenarios, he even says, he blatantly, up front, without any remorse, says this book is incorrect. I'm paraphrasing, but he says, these are the battles that I wrote, and I changed them. They're not historical. They're balanced. So he took these games, these battles, and he made them balanced. So he, in a way, like he'll pull a bunch of units out of the Princeton battle, or he'll add units, or he'll modify the units, or he'll change the units, or he'll change their abilities to make them more balanced. That's great on, like, for you and your friends that want to just have a balanced game where both sides have a chance to win. You want a game like that because it becomes a fun on both sides. But I'm going to get into something in just a second. Okay. So then I compared it with this, thinking that, okay, well, if he's going to be unbalanced, or if he's going to be just balanced and not historical, let me check British Grenadiers' scenario of Princeton. And British Grenadiers' Battle of Princeton is too literal. Like, if there's 200 guys, they have 20 models. If they have 170 guys, they got 17 models. Or if they've got one cannon, then you only get one cannon. If you got 3 cannons, you get 3 cannons or something. It's too literal, and the basing convention from this is not conducive to a black powder game. The basing in this one is, but the unit sizes are incorrect, and the unit compositions and where they are at and who participated in the battle is even incorrect. I noticed that he has like the 17th Dragoons, and they're supposed to be the 16th Dragoons. Okay, so there's a lot of inconsistencies with the Rebellion book, and I'm really upset about that, but that's okay. So this is what I decided to do. I'm going to make the forces as historically accurate as possible. There's going to be militia out the wazoo. There's going to be some riflemen. There's going to be some Grenadiers. There's going to be the 16th Cavalry. I'm even going to have a wagon train, because they're supposed to have some wagons that they're carrying from Princeton to Trenton. And I'm going to make the objective balance the game. I'm going to make it so that the British can win by accomplishing something, not point-based equal forces on both sides. This is not a tournament. This is not a Warhammer game where it's two forces have to be the same number of points and you fight it out. I don't subscribe to that philosophy. The British in the war considered Princeton not to be a loss. They considered it to be maybe a hurdle, because they still attacked Trenton and they still defended Princeton. You know, it wasn't like, well, they abandoned Princeton, but they didn't lose anybody in the battle. I mean, like 50 men or something like that. I'm gonna make it a fighting withdrawal, or if they can successfully get their troops off the table, or if they can get their cannons to a certain spot, or if they can get the wagons safely off, or if they can do this or that, or if they can hold this one building long enough or something, you know, for 3 rounds in a row, or something that makes it not force related, not casually related, but like objective related. And that's how I'm going to balance the scenario. Haven't got that far yet. Haven't figured that out yet. But I've got from now to forever to playtest this with my friends. We're going to play about once a month once I get everything set up, once I get all enough miniatures. So you can expect some battles in about 2 months up until NashCon, just to see if I want to play it at NashCon. I've got about 5 hours a night on Thursday. We might do it. I don't know. Okay, so I know how many figures I need, right? I know how many figures I have. I know how many bases I have and need, and I know everything I need, right, for this battle. So what I did was, and this is the key before I end this video, I've ordered a couple of Sarissa Americana buildings, okay, and one's going to be like the Clark house, another one's going to be like Princeton. I might need to order a couple more if I want to put Princeton on the table. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. But there's a farm, and there's the Clark farm, and there's the Clark house or something like that. Because it takes place on the Clark farm, basically, this big battle. And there's a couple of bridges. There's a really small bridge over a creek, and then it's really not even, I mean, I could probably jump over with a big long step, but maybe at the time, because of the snow and the weather, maybe it was a bigger creek at that time, because they did have a bridge that went over it. But in the game, in this game, they say you can cross it. It just costs, movement points. And in the other game, it says you can cross it as well with a certain number of inches you lose or whatever. So it's going to be crossable, but I'm going to have a bridge on it. It's going to be a little railed bridge and stuff. But then I've got this larger stone bridge that goes over the main river, and that's where the British are crossing. And the Americans had orders to blow that bridge up. So maybe that might be something I put on the Americans to try to blow that bridge. Maybe that'll give them some victory points if they're able to do it. I don't think it'll ever happen, but if they do, that'll help them win. If the British prevent it, maybe they don't get points added to the British. Maybe it's something like that. The British get it if they hold it, but if you blow it up, the British don't get those points. And that's one way to win, because you limit their points. I don't know. I'm still working on all that. But I did order a bridge. I did order two bridges. No, I already own multiple bridges, but I ordered a small little bridge, American bridge, and then I ordered a couple of Americana buildings. I have a third resin building for American, so right now I have 3, and then Mike says I could probably borrow one of his resin models for a Americana building. I think he's got Guilford Courthouse or something. We might be able to use that, like put that in Princeton. But I don't want to rely on that. Because I want a collection of my own. And then what else? I ordered some bases. I ordered a pack from Litco, 100 bases. So that should be more than enough, because I think I only need like 90. Or maybe not even that, maybe like 70. But the pack for 50, they sell them in like 10, 25, 50, and 100. So if I had to buy a 50 and a 25, I think it would have been more than just going ahead and buying 100. So I bought 100. And that'll help me out for all my other miniatures games, or if I want to expand the line even more. And then I had to get miniatures. Well, I thought I was going to get the Continental box set because it comes with a cannon, some militia, and some line troops, but it came with way too much. So I decided to save some money, and I bought like one militia box, one colonial box, and then I ordered some cannons from Perry. So I got some metal Perry cannons coming in, but these are going to come with limbers, and that'll be good for just having American War of Independence limbers, because I don't have any. I've got Napoleonic limbers, okay, which I probably could use, but I want to get some American War of Independence limbers. Okay, so I ordered some of those, and then I ordered some wagons from Perry, and I ordered the cavalry from Perry. I also ordered some dismounted cavalry from Perry, because there is a couple of there's one dismounted unit that's with the wagon train or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But that'll get displayed. And then, okay, so I got my bases. I got my the Continental cannons and the Continental infantry and militia, and I ordered the buildings and the bridge, and I don't need any trees. I have them, and fencing and hedges I have. So now the last thing I need, okay, so pretty much that's what I've ordered. Also, when I finally take my my Hessians and I rebase them for the Hessian units that they are. I think I'm just going to proxy them as the American Germans that are at Princeton, because Princeton has some Germans, and the Hessians that I have are all bicorn. They don't, or tricorn. They don't have the peaked caps that the Hessians probably have at Trenton. So these might be able to pose as American Germans. We'll see. And then the generals, I have some generals. I need to paint some generals. I need to rebase the generals. So that means I need to go get some. I have like the brigade commander round bases, and I have the, which in this battle, the brigade, the maneuver units are not going to be regiments, right? So they're going to be battalions. So I'm taking it a step back, right? I'm taking it from regiment down to battalion. So the battalion is going to have a regimental commander, and then the regimental commander is going to have an overall brigade commander, right? Because the British are only going to have a brigade on the table, which is 3 regiments. They have the 77th, the 55th, and the 40th, 17th, 55th, and I think it's the 40th. And that's not going to be fun to just have all the models in one regiment be painted the 17th and all the models in the 2nd regiment to be painted like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th battalion of the 55th. I'm not doing it that way. I'm going to paint each battalion a different regimental color, because normally the game is played with units being regiments, but in this case the scale is lower. So the reason why the scale is lower is to give more maneuver units for the participating troops. And the fact that the American regiments at the time were really only company or battalion size. They were only 100 or 200 models or figures or men. And so you really didn't have big regiments on the American side. So by breaking up the British regiments into individual battalions, it kind of makes it pretty cool. Okay, so I need to build some terrain. Sorry, thought about this. I need to get some hills made for the overall battle, and I need to get make a decision on how I'm going to cover the table. I could just go with like some green felt. I've thought about that. That's usually my go-to. Or I could just get some green fabric and make it a lot thinner and just lay it on top of the table. Green fabric would probably be a lot cheaper, and then I could just paint on it, and then when I'm done, roll it up, fold it, put it away, iron it when I'm done with it, that kind of stuff. And I think that might be the way to go, because there's not a whole lot of roads, or roads don't give you any advantage in this scenario. And the rivers I could paint on there, or I could make some river bases and lay them down. I don't know how I want to do that. I don't know. I could even draw in this is another thing I found out when I played the Quatre Bras game down in Nashville in June, when we did the NashCon down in June. I took a building and I put it in the middle of picket fences. I made a picket fence courtyard around the buildings. And then so when a player occupied a building, you didn't put the figures inside the building, or you didn't have to put the backs of your figures up against the building block or whatever. You just put them in the courtyard, and then you put them facing in different directions. And a lot of times I found that the buildings that I put like right up against a road and then put the fence, I would connect the fence to the building and have it extend out so that I could fit these models in there. I found that I didn't really like that method. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is maybe this is something I could build a base, get some MDF board, make a base that represents the yard, and then don't put a fence on it, or do put a fence, it doesn't matter, and then because people obviously they'll see the MDF board. I might hedge it, like put a little maybe flower gardens around the edge or something, maybe a picket fence in the beginning or on one wall or something. And then I could just put a building on top of that base that could be picked up and moved when it's occupied. That's the way we used to do it with Command Decision. I would have these little felt squares and then put a building on it just to represent the city block. And when players occupied it with troops, they would pull the building off and set it off to the side, maybe just 3 or 4 inches away, and then put the figures, because that's really what was important, was the city sector space. Same thing with Command Decision and with Spearhead. I did the same thing. I put little city blocks down, put a building on top. I think that's what I'm going to do with Black Powder, because you got to be able to fit a whole unit in, right? Which six bases. American War of Independence is going to be 6 bases. That's max I need, which is only like 7 by 3 inches or something like that. And then a building could easily fit in that. Do I want to make it a little bit bigger to represent like a full courtyard where I can leave the building on the base while the figures are in there? Or do I want to make it where you have to pull the building off to put the figures in there? That's something I'm going to have to decide. That's another thing I'm working on. I think I'm going to make the base big enough for units to be in the courtyard while the building is in there as well, to allow the building not to be displaced and take away from the aesthetics. All right, because for me, as you know, it's all about how it looks. If it doesn't look good, I don't like it. It's got to look really good, and that's what I'm going to work on. Other than that, I think you caught up. I think you know where I'm at now in the project. And that's really what I want to do, is just update you on where I was. I'm not really showing off any models. I've only got my militia flocked. I'm looking right here at my New Hampshire troops. I've got some New Hampshire troops right here that, as you can see, are, I put some putty on there, some plaster before I do flocking. I like to put the plaster on there. If you watch some previous videos on my rebasing models, you'll see what I'm doing. I'm gluing the figures to the base. Then I'm putting plaster between the bases so that they don't look like they're individually standing on hills. And then I gravel it, and then I grass it. And so that's where I'm at on those guys. Oh, I still have to paint it too. I got to paint the white, make it brown. I've got 5 other British units that I've done, and I've got the militia done, and I've got these 2 New Hampshire units. But that's it. Everything else is just waiting for bases before I start rebasing. I probably could be cutting them off of bases now and then putting them in little tubs or something to save them for when I do get the bases. They'll be ready already. That's probably what I'm going to be doing this week, maybe tomorrow. And then, because we're supposed to have some really bad weather tomorrow, so maybe I'll be stranded inside the house. And then I also have some blank pure pewter. I might go ahead and glue them onto some popsicle sticks so that I can get them ready to be primed. I can even prime them, but getting them ready to be painted. But I don't really know exactly which figure is going to go in which unit until I get those units in the mail, the box sets. When I get them, I will do some reviews on those box sets. I'll do a review on that's another thing. This is just upcoming videos. I'll do a review on Black Powder 2, which I know this is like 6 months later, but when did it come out? In like October? So maybe 4 months late, 5 months late. So I'll do a review on Black Powder 2, and not really necessarily the changes, but my impressions of it. But I'm also going to talk about changes because, I'll add both of those. I'm not going to do a tutorial video. I might do an updated tutorial video that talks about the changes on Black Powder 2 compared to my Black Powder 1 tutorial that I did. I did a long, like 11 video tutorial. You should check that out on Black Powder. But I'm going to get the Black Powder 2, talk about that. I have that on the way. And I have the Sarissa buildings, I'll do, when I assemble those, I'll do a video for that. And when I paint them, I'll do a video for that. And then when I get these 2 box sets in, I'll do a video on that. And when I get my Perry models in, I'll do some videos on that too. So don't worry, I've got some modeling videos coming out. And I've also got some Princeton updates coming out. And it's really just to keep you updated on where I'm at. All right, guys, if you want to like and subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're interested in when I upload videos or if I go live, make sure you hit the little notification icon on the screen, and that way when I upload a video, you'll get a notification so you'll know when to go read it or watch it. So I should be getting you should be getting like a video every other day or something like that, and it might be in this format where I record at my desk, but it might be on the table or something like that, just so I can show the miniatures off. Otherwise I could show them off here, but or it might be a split. I don't know how I'm going to do it. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.